Hey, this is JB333 coming at you from my morning before work, like usual. Just so you know, I usually do this stuff live, so if I make mistakes, that's why. I don't re-record. I do it like Lil Wayne does it, just straight freestyle. Haha. Anyway, I wanted to get on and talk a little bit about psychology. I've mentioned it in a lot of my podcasts, like my views on psychology, my views on medication, and today, I'm going to be citing a couple reasons as to why I have the viewpoints that I do, only, from personal experiences and from, psychology courses altogether. But I'm also going to be recording a YouTube video of this, which is going to be happening either tonight or tomorrow. Check out my YouTube. It's reflections with threes instead of e's. By all means, get on there, subscribe, come vibe with me, come, help me spread positivity to the world. But today, again, I'm going to be citing a couple different people. So, prominent people in psychology. I'm sure everybody's heard of Dr. Carl Jung, Dr. Sigmund Freud, but there's a new person in this field that I really, really, truly like because what he's doing is helping to combine spirituality and psychology. And these two are things that anybody who is a student of the mind understands that it has to be the case. These two should never have not been combined. Science and spirituality, or whatever you want to call it, need to be combined. I'm not talking about religion because that keeps you trapped in a box. I'm talking about spirituality. And it is a travesty to mankind that these are not combined because it's obvious to anybody who believes in both of these things that there's something more going on in this world than just basic science can explain without, the added tenets of spirituality. But anyway, for those who don't know who Carl Jung is, Carl Jung was born in 1875. He lived till 1961. Was a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who made significant contributions to the field of psychology, particularly in the areas of analytical psychology and the understanding of the human psyche. So, a brief summary of his work. Analytical psychology. Jung developed a unique approach to psychology known as analytical psychology. He emphasized the importance of the unconscious mind or subconscious mind. Those two terms are genuinely linked. And he believed that it contains not only personal experiences, but also the collective and universal aspects, which he called the collective unconscious. So, what that means is essentially speaking through his work, he discovered that all people are connected in mind through the subconscious part of your mind. That's why we're able to pick up on each other's thoughts. That's why, when you live together with somebody, you're like, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about that. It's because our minds are connected. And so he aimed to explore and integrate these unconscious elements into an individual's conscious awareness. So he was aimed to get in control of the mind. Archetypes. One of Jung's key concepts was the archetype, which he defined as the universal symbolic patterns or images that are present in the collective unconsciousness. Archetypes represent fundamental human experiences and themes such as the mother, the hero, the shadow, the animal, anima, the animus. According to Jung, these archetypes influence our behavior, beliefs, and perceptions. So, my belief on archetypes has always been that if you are unconscious of your life, if you were just going around thinking that you are you're bound by some bad luck, or you're bound by, you're not thinking, you're just a non-player character like most people are in their day-to-day life, then you are bound by archetypes. You're going to be following patterns, right? But as soon as you start to take conscious control of your life and realize that you are responsible for your life and your own problems, you start to get outside of these archetypes and start to be able to question. And I don't really know how to explain it other than that. um Another thing, Jung introduced the psychological types. He introduced the foundation of the Myers-Briggs type indicator. He proposed that individuals have innate preferences in the way we perceive and judge the world, leading to different personality types. That's another thing. He talked about how we view the world is different. So I'm going to view the world differently than the next person. It's based on our inner world view, and any information we take in will be, read through that lens, essentially. But yeah, this is one of the people that I got into heavily when I got into the field of psychology is Carl Jung. It's fascinating. And the reason why I'm doing this whole thing is because I've been reading a book called Think and Grow Rich, and it was written and published in 1937. And they seem to have a knowledge of psychology that appears to have been lost to us. Like you think that psychology would have evolved in almost 100 years to where we all this stuff is common knowledge, but it seems to me like it's going backwards. Like we're I don't know, a lot of these concepts have been lost to us, and I don't understand why until I came across the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, who is a newer person in the field of neuroscience and human potential personal information. He's a summary of his work is he has done lots of studies in neuroplasticity and a mind body connection. So he is a neuroscientist. He's done all this stuff with brain scans that these guys were doing when they didn't have this kind of technology. And so Dr. Joe Dispenza emphasizes the concept of neuroplasticity, which refers to the brain's ability to reorganize and form new neural connections throughout life. He explores the powerful connection between mind and body and suggesting that our thoughts and emotions can influence our physical health and well-being. This is a very important thing. And one of the reasons I believe that this stuff has been hidden from us is so that they can sell us medication to make us feel okay. 100%. If you are doubting that, I suggest you do some research and watch all of this guy's videos. I've believed for a long time, and this is a well established scientific fact. So, your thoughts you can turn on the stress hormone in your body by thoughts alone. It's proven. You can think about a memory that stresses you out and your body will think as though you're there and it will turn on the stress hormones and make you sick. So quite literally, your thoughts can make you sick. That's why anybody when they're like, "Oh, I get sick all the time," you should never say that. 100% your body is creating the reality around you. You need to understand that. Your mind, I mean. So he has proposed the idea if your thoughts can make you sick, can your thoughts also make you healthy? And this is one of the things he's studied. And the reports and the different studies he've done, like, is suggesting exactly that. And again, this is the stuff that they were talking about in the 1930s when I read this other book. Like, how is it that they knew that then and we don't know it now? And the answer, again, almost 100% certainty here that the pharmaceutical companies don't want us to know this because why is that? Because they need to sell us medication to make us feel okay. You'll go in there and they'll tell you you have a chemical imbalance in your brain and you need our meds to fix you. And no one, you've never heard of anybody in your life having a miracle cure from any of these medications that they've taken. If you can name one, I'll shut up. But no, you cannot. Because these people, they may get right for a little bit and then they start to do it again because your body, it's a drug. Just like any other drug that you could take, you're eventually going to get used to it and it's not going to help you. The answer is that you have something inside of you that needs to be dealt with. Especially if you've experienced a lot of trauma in your life, there is your answer. You want to know how to get on the other side of this without medication? There's your answer. Face that trauma. Figure out how to deal with it. Write some letters. Do what you got to do. But another thing he talks about and studies heavily is the placebo effect. Again, I did a whole podcast on this. The placebo effect is, you can basically be given a medication and told that it will have these effects on you, and your body will replicate those effects. And if that isn't, proving the fact that the your body can literally create health, I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is something that no mainstream scientist has like really looked into, and this is why he's looking into it. The placebo effect, like, why is this something that's not studied? It's used in every single blind study, it's used in every medication study, but why is it that we've never been told the reasons? Have you ever thought about that? Why are we not told the reasons? And again, it's because we are being lied to. So another thing he does is quantum physics and the observer effect. Drawing from the principles of quantum physics, Dr. Dispenza suggests that our observations and intentions can impact the outcomes we experience in life. He explores the idea that our consciousness and energy can influence the quantum field and shape our reality. Again, if you haven't looked into the quantum physics and observer effect, you should, because it suggests that, when we view something, it changes. And this is verifiable scientific data. It's very, very important that you look into this because we 100% sure you create our reality. Now, a lot of people throw that term around, we create our reality, but what does it really mean? That means that quite literally your thoughts have an effect on what you experience in your reality on a day to day basis. Think of yourself like a magnet. So, as a magnet, you attract and repel things that essentially like attracts like, right? So, that's why the idea of the power of positivity makes so much sense if you really think about it. That's the whole idea behind it. The reason why they say, hey, positive, be positive, because then you're going to attract positive things to you. The moment that I realized that, essentially the aha moment that there's no one else to blame for your life and the way it's going but you then take the power back and then you can start to change it. You start to realize that the negative patterns you're experiencing in your life are not from the devil. They're not from somebody who's, just because you got bad luck. They're based off of your own negative thought patterns. And to realize this again is to take the power back into your own hands about this kind of stuff. I promise you, have nothing to lose than to try this stuff. Nothing to lose at all. Take anytime you have a negative thought, you can supplant a positive thought. Reverse that immediately. Don't allow yourself to get negative. Don't allow yourself to think that, oh, woe is me this, why can't I ever have that? Do you understand why? Is because the dominant thought in your mind is going to be what your mind attracts. If you supplant fear into your mind, it's going to attract all the nonsense. It's going to keep attracting these negative situations, these negative outcomes. You have to religiously control your thought patterns. And again, when I started realizing this in my own life, I stopped having all these negative patterns. I stopped having all this bad luck, quote unquote. And in all honesty, the things started to just happen for me. Granted, like I fail miserably from time to time still. I'm not perfect by any means. I have, 4 kids at home. I struggle with being tired from work, but the majority of the time when I don't allow negativity into my mind, I don't have any negative stuff happen. And that's one of the things that I learned from watching all the videos from Dr. Joe Dispenza. Again, you can watch this guy's stuff on YouTube for free. By all means, search him up, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and while you're at it, search me on YouTube, Reflections with 3 instead of E's. But yeah, this is like been an area that has changed my life completely, is just by focusing on the fact that, again, you have control over your reality. It is not by some unforeseen force. And now, granted, what is the scientific explanation for that? We don't know. Science, this is one of the things that one of the reasons I wanted to do this is because science has yet to explain it, and they know, so they know that there's this unseen force that makes stuff like this happen, but they don't study it. And I personally believe that is done on purpose because if we realize that we're the problems, and we realize that just by changing your thoughts you can change your health, you can change everything in your life, people are not going to need these pharmaceutical drugs anymore. If you don't need pharmaceutical drugs anymore, the drug companies lose all this money. Why would they want us to know these things? That's why when people, again, trust these pharma companies, it makes me laugh because they wouldn't exist if you weren't sick. You should never trust somebody that is profiting off sickness, because that is wrong. Somebody that's selling you something like insulin, that you need to live, and they are marking it up at a crazy amount. Tell me that that is not the most unethical thing you've ever heard of in your life, and yet people just accept this stuff. No, that's just another example. So, the last person I'm going to touch on is Dr. Sigmund Freud. He's another famous, you can't get into the field of psychology without researching this guy's stuff. So he was an Austrian neurologist and the founder of psychoanalysis, that the psychological approach that revolutionized the understanding of human behavior and mental processes. Psychoanalysis, Freud developed, I don't know if it's Freud, don't judge me, okay? Developed psychoanalysis as a comprehensive theory of the mind and a method treatment for mental disorders. He believed that the unconscious processes of childhood experiences greatly influence human behavior. Psychoanalysis aimed to bring unconscious conflicts and desires into conscious awareness to alleviate psychological distress. So, a lot of people don't know that, like, in your day to day basis, if you say you experience trauma at a young age, your body, your ego, then creates a persona based around that that is meant to keep you safe and keep you going. So that's why people stay in states of misery for so long, because ultimately it gives you a high. And I know that the people will hate for that, but a lot of times it is a choice to stay there. A lot of people go into the woe is me game because people will say, "Oh, I'm so sorry for you." And then they get a high from that person. It's an energy exchange. The realization is you have control over this. You could quite literally think your way into happiness just by changing those negative thoughts into positive thoughts. It takes repetition. It takes really, a lot of practice to do this, but it can be done. So Sigmund Freud talked about the unconscious mind quite heavily. So he proposed that the mind is composed of three levels: conscious, preconscious, and unconscious. So the conscious part of your mind is your analytical mind, your thinking mind, your the part of you that asks questions about things around the world around you. The subconscious, or unconscious as he calls it, is the part of your mind that controls all your bodily functions, your heartbeat, your, the thing that makes you makes you breathe, otherwise you would die. And then the preconscious mind is the what's considered like the reptilian part of your brain, the part where basically, that's the human instincts, your fight or flight response, etc. This is the three parts of his mind that he, or parts of the mind that he describes in most of his work. He does tons and tons of, you can't take a psychology class again without learning about this. Is one of the first people you learn about. He does a lot with dreams and interpretations of symbols. So Freud considered dreams as the royal road to the unconscious. He developed techniques for interpreting dreams, arguing that they contain hidden meanings and symbolic representations of unconscious desires and conflicts. This is something to really, really look into, because mainstream science will tell you that dreams are just a dramatization of your subconscious for stuff that happened to you throughout the day. And let's be realistic. Some of us have dreams where we're flying to other planets and stuff like that. So did that happen in your day to day? No, it did not. Your dreams can be the key to understanding yourself on a deep level if you truly understand how to interpret dreams. And it's different for every single person. You can buy a dream interpretation book and you might be able to figure it out, but it's different from person to person, and it's definitely an area to look into. You can actually become lucid in your dreams and have godlike abilities. There's people that do it. There's books you can buy on this subject where you can learn to wake up while you're in a dream. I've done it a couple times. It's crazy. You're essentially become a god. You can fly, you can have whatever you can conjure up in your mind. But these are the three areas again that he tends to focus on. It's, his work is really brilliant in this regard. This is definitely an area that's piqued my interest over the years. But it seems again like we have gone backwards as far as psychology goes. And that's the reason why I wanted to cite these three people and their differences. Like, I really, really like again, the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I believe that he, with the tools that he's had and the modern scientific applications he's been able to bridge a lot of the gaps of spirituality and science. And that, again, that's one of the quotes from Nikola Tesla was like, once science starts to investigate the non-physical phenomena, we're going to make more progress, in 10 years than we have in the entire history of science. I might have butchered that quote. It's okay. But anyway, I hope everyone listening to this got something out of it and can learn a few things. By all means, look up the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza on YouTube. Check me out on YouTube, Reflections with threes instead of E's. I appreciate each and every one of you for listening. You have a great day.